I had just grabbed a cold beer from the cooler and was about to sit back down in my camping chair near the fire when I noticed the woman. Her face was smudged with dirt and her hair was askew, a few twigs and errant leaves poking out from within the loose, brown curls. She gave me a crooked smile, her left front tooth smeared with mud. "Hello?" I stuttered, unsure what else to say. My two friends seemed to notice her then, and I saw Dave jump a little. She took another step forward into the light, revealing even more strange details. Her hands were even filthier than her face, brown with mud between the fingers. But the strangest thing about her appearance was her clothing. She must be a scout leader, I thought, because her outfit was a Boy Scout uniform, complete with knee-high socks, a green kerchief, and a shirt covered with many colorful sewn-on badges. The fire was spitting out embers beside me, and one popped loudly, causing me to start. Can we help you?" Dave asked, beating me to the question. "Are you alright?" He put his beer in the cup holder of his camping chair and got ready to stand up when the woman stopped him, waving us off. "Oh, no, I'm fine. I just thought I'd stop by to say hello. I've been chasing those little hellraisers all day. I must look like such a mess." Dave settled back in his chair, and I relaxed a little as well. People had been stopping by the campsite all night long, having a quick chat and then moving on. There was a big event nearby, a circus, that a lot of people were visiting from out of town, and it gave the campground a quaint, neighborly vibe, since most people were all here in the area for the same thing. A few sites over, someone was finger-picking a guitar and singing a familiar song I couldn't quite place. Laughter and voices could be heard from all over. It was a pleasant, warm night, perfect for camping. There was no reason to be scared of this woman. And yet, I felt uneasy as she made eye contact with me, staring at me unblinking for a few long seconds. "Pull up a chair," Tom said, laughing, pointing at some fat, shortcut logs nearby. "Want a beer?" As usual, Tom was half in the bag already, and it wasn't even midnight. He wasn't slurring his words and singing improvised parody songs just yet, but he was close. "Oh, thank you," the woman said, pulling over a wide log and sitting on it. "I really shouldn't drink, though. Not when I'm the one responsible for my troop's safety. It just wouldn't be right." She spoke with the nerdy prudishness of someone who had rarely, if ever, attended a party. I doubted she drank at all, even if she was off duty. "Fair enough," Dave agreed. "Where are the little rascals at, anyway? In bed for the night by now, probably, huh?" The woman's eyes widened with shock. "Oh dear, no. They're just getting started. Practically nocturnal, those little creatures." She smiled, showing us she was only kidding. That's what that smile meant, right? "Can I get you water?" Tom asked, tossing her a bottle from the cooler. She grabbed it deftly out of the air, and I noticed her nails were long, dirty, and sharpened to points. "Oh, thank you. I am thirsty." She guzzled the water in one go and set the bottle down beside her in the grass. "So, are you doing anything interesting with the troop this weekend?" "Oh, just the usual. A few are hoping to earn their badges in carving. One of them is going for their second-degree vampirition, and there was something odd about the woman, and it was setting me on edge. Instead of joining in their conversation, I began examining her, watching her through the flames of the fire, looking at her clothing and the badges on her uniform. Most of them were normal. I had been in the Boy Scouts myself and recognized the archery badge, the fire starter badge, the fishing badge, as well as a few others. Knot tying, art and photography, winter camping. That one had been tough, where we had to spend the whole night outdoors in a tent in the middle of winter. There were larger badges as well, which I assumed were for leaders and longtime supporters of the Boy Scouts. One big blue badge said, Summer Jamboree, Hollow's End, July 19th through 28th, 1966. Another large round one bore the Scouting logo and proclaimed the wearer to be an official Scoutmaster. Smaller, rectangular ones below that looked a bit like flags. Except, the longer I looked at them, the more odd they were. One badge had a goat head. Another had a 5-pointed star circled in red. And the one on the right looked like a dead oak tree, upside down and on fire. I realized that the woman was watching me. She had stopped talking to my friends at some point while I'd been examining her uniform. And now she was eyeing me suspiciously. I'm gonna go take a leak, Tom said. You guys keep the fire going, alright? Dave laughed and pointed at the woman. Take your time, dude. We got a real-life Scoutmaster here with us. You'll keep the fire going, won't you, Liv? I hadn't caught it before, but that must have been her name. Liv. Short for Olivia, I guessed. Of course, she said, not taking her eyes off of me. I'd be more than happy to tend the fire. Man, I gotta go too. You mind keeping our new friend company for a minute, Jason? Dave asked, running off to join Tom in a nearby copse of trees, not waiting for an answer. Yeah, sure. No problem, I said, as much as I didn't want to. It would be rude of me to leave her alone. I looked over my shoulder, hoping they'd come back soon. They didn't. When I turned around again, Liv was standing right in front of me. I hadn't even heard her approach. She was even dirtier up close. I could see mud splashed on her legs and clumps of it in her hair, like she'd been living out in these woods for a while. Fire's no good, she whispered. It makes them angry. What? I stuttered. Firewood? She asked pleasantly. I asked if you know where the firewood is. I was positive that wasn't what she'd said, but I didn't challenge her on it. Instead, I pointed to the pile of logs, conveniently placed a few feet from where she'd been standing before. Over there, I managed to say. She turned without a word and went over to the pile of dry firewood, which we paid an exorbitant amount for at a nearby gas station. She grabbed the biggest piece she could find and walked stiff-legged to the fire. The woman dropped a heavy log crashing down onto the flames, sending sparks and embers flying up into the sky. The other pieces of burning wood toppled like dominoes. The fire was guttering immediately, threatening to go out. She went back to the woodpile and picked up another piece, and let it drop, making a loud noise as it smothered the flames even more. She was really making a mess of things. The carefully constructed teepee of logs we'd made now looked like a pile of rubble. I was about to say something when she started talking. I noticed you admiring my uniform, she said, her dirty face stretching into a grin. My badges? Liv went back over to the woodpile and grabbed another big log. She stepped back to the fire and dropped it, crash, onto the fire. It was almost dead now, and the campsite was getting very dark. Oh, yeah, I said, trying to sound at ease, even though I was far from it. You know, I was in the Boy Scouts when I was a kid, actually. I think I had a few of those same badges. Doubtful, she sighed, picking up yet another log. These are only for special scouts. Troop leaders. Her face was hard and angry suddenly. I almost apologized, without even realizing what I'd done wrong. But then I scolded myself, telling myself I was being ridiculous. There was nothing for her to be upset about. It was just my imagination. Oh, my mistake. I definitely never went that far with it. I quit after Scouts. A couple of my friends went on and did the next level. What's it called? Pathfinders? She dropped another log. The fire pit sat dark and dead. She didn't bother picking up another log, instead just staring at me as she spoke. Her eyes looked black as the night sky all of a sudden, like they'd been filled with ink. Pathfinders, eagles, jackals, ravens, snakes, owls. It keeps going on and on forever, as long as you're willing to obey the Dark One's commands. I've gone through so many levels I lost count. She was smiling again, and I relaxed a little. But then I began to process what she just said. The Dark One? Jackals, ravens, snakes, and owls? Those weren't scout ranks, were they? My mind felt like it was moving slower than usual, as if it was taking me a few seconds longer to process everything. And, as a result, I was glued in place, watching things unfold. Liv was heading back to the woodpile for another log, and I decided to finally say something. I think that's probably enough for now, isn't it? I asked, trying to keep my tone light and friendly. We might need to get it started again with the lighter and some fresh kindling. She snapped her head to look at me, and picked up another log anyway. Then she dropped it on the fire pit from chest height, letting it crash down into the remaining embers. Our neat little fire pit was in total disarray now. The stone circle around it was knocked over and hot embers were everywhere, all the way over at my feet. I kicked one back towards the fire pit that was threatening to melt my shoe. Everyone wants to be a leader, until it's time to put the work in, the woman said, her tone icy. But if you add too many cooks to the kitchen, just look what happens. All the fires go out. The darkness wins again. The chaos reigns again. Always and forever. I paused for a second, unsure what to say to that word salad of madness. Look, if I've said something to offend you, sorry, I attempted. I really didn't mean to... Oh no, she cried. You could never upset me. The things I've seen, the things I've done, the messes. Oh, good. I didn't know what else to say. I just wanted to leave this awkward situation with this weird, creepy woman. How the hell had my friends managed to carry on a normal conversation with her? I looked over my shoulder to where Dave and Tom had gone. They should have been back by now. Why weren't they back by now? The woman was humming a quiet song under her breath, one that I didn't recognize. Then, without warning, she started to whistle. A note that was high and shrill, like someone summoning a dog. I'm gonna go check on those guys, I said suddenly, without thinking. I just knew I needed to get away from that woman and whatever she was calling with that whistle. She was too weird. This whole thing was too weird. It felt like I was in a bad dream. I was getting that weird nauseous feeling you get when the world is too surreal, and you want to pinch yourself to make sure you're not sleeping. Just as I was opening my mouth to make an excuse to go check on them, I saw the eyes reflecting in the darkness. Golden and shining back at me from ahead, just beyond the tree line. Then I noticed more of them in the trees, and in the shrubs and bushes beside the campsite. They were all around us. Eyes that reminded me of predatory animals had surrounded us and were watching my every move. And the woman was smiling even more broadly now. That smile was wider than should have been possible, like a Cheshire cat. "Ah, my troop is here," she said. "I told you they don't like the fire. They don't like the light. They prefer the darkness. The hidden corners behind trees where foolish people go to get away from others. Those are their favorite spots to hunt. The hidden places. The places where people are alone and vulnerable." I tried to get up and run, but my legs wouldn't listen. They wouldn't obey me. And now those eyes were getting bigger, closer. The troop, as she called them, began to become visible in the shadows. My eyes were adjusting to the darkness, and I could see almost every horrible detail of them as they got closer. To say they looked like children would be an offense to every child in existence. They looked like kids the way a jackal looks like a Beanie Baby, but they had some of the same features as children. They were smaller than the woman, dressed in filthy, torn, and muddy scout uniforms. A few carried long branches shaved down at the ends into points. Their hair was dirty and disheveled, peppered with leaves and twigs, as if they had been out in the woods for a long time. Hunting for food, maybe? And I was starting to suspect what their food source was. "Split him evenly, children. Sharing is caring." The troop closed in on me quickly, from all angles like wolves. My legs finally responded to my commands to stand up and run, and as I pushed myself up, I felt something under my hand. My shaking fingers settled on my big mag light, and I grabbed it and spun it around to use it as a weapon as I heard footsteps right behind me. A little monster with a wide-open mouth filled with long, sharp teeth was just behind me, and I swung the heavy-duty flashlight without thinking, acting purely on reflex. It slammed into the boy creature's face and sent several teeth flying into the air. The hellchild was getting up again the instant it hit the ground. I repositioned my hand on the flashlight to get a better grip, thinking I would need to swing it again. As I moved my hand, my finger brushed against the switch, and bright white light spilled out across the campsite. That simple accident probably saved my life. The next little demon spawn was only a yard away from me, and the light blasted him in the face and sent him reeling backwards. He hissed like an angry street cat, baring teeth like a piranha. A noise like running footsteps came from beside me, and I spun around with the light just in time to paralyze another one, just as it was about to strike. The thing hissed and covered its face, the skin of its palms bubbling like boiling wax under the glow of the flashlight's beam. I backed away from the dead campfire, shining the flashlight beam back and forth in all directions as I did. They shrunk back into the shadows, behind trees and shrubs, but quickly approached me again as soon as I turned around. The little bastards were like the ghosts in Mario, racing forward as soon as my back was turned. I shuddered to think what they would do with me if I didn't have the light. There were so many of them, and more were still emerging from the shadows, raising their count to well over a dozen. I'll never get away, I thought. The little fuckers are everywhere. Still, I had no choice but to run. After one last round with the flashlight, I booked it in the direction of the trees where Dave and Tom had gone. I was holding out hope they were still alive somehow. but I should have known that was too much to ask for. The little copse of trees hid what remained of their bodies too well. I didn't see my friends until I was right on top of them. I actually tripped over Tom's leg and went flying. When I landed, my arm smacked into a rock embedded in the ground, and my jaw snapped shut painfully with the sudden impact. A warm trickle of blood ran down the side of my forearm afterwards, and I realized at some point during my fall I had dropped the flashlight. I groped for it blindly in the darkness, but couldn't find it. My hands brushed against leaves and roots, and I was sure any second I would feel a slash of hot pain across my arm or back as one of those little ghouls attacked me. I could hear them looking for me, sniffing the air and getting closer. And finally, just as I heard them closing in, my fingers touched the cold steel of the barrel, and I picked up the old maglite and shone it wildly in every direction, jumping up to my feet in an instant. "Back! Get back!" I screamed, seeing their reflective eyes all around. A few were closer than I thought. I started screaming for help, looking around the campgrounds for anyone who was nearby. This place had been bustling with life and activity less than an hour ago. Where the hell had everyone gone? All of the other campsites were quiet now, their fires extinguished, and slouched figures lay like they were sleeping around the dead campfires. But then I saw other details in the darkness. Disturbing details. More small, childlike figures climbing on top of those slouched bodies, devouring their flesh, tearing away at their faces and plucking out eyeballs with their teeth. "Oh, fuck," I muttered, looking back at Dave and Tom. They were dead and I knew it, but I didn't want to admit that to myself just yet. This was Dave and Tom, my best friends. Dave, who had caught a foul ball at a Rangers game and just gave it to me without a second thought because I'd never caught a foul ball before. And Tom, the guy who always pulled out his guitar at the most inappropriate moments and would make up songs on the fly that would make Weird Al grin and clap along. They couldn't be dead. We had so many plans together. So many things we wanted to do together before we died. "Please don't leave me here alone," I begged. "Get up, guys. Please, just get up." And suddenly, to my surprise, they did. Tom and Dave staggered up to their feet, blood leaking from their mouths and eyes. Eyes which now reflected the light of my flashlight like night animals. Neither one of them seemed to recognize me, and when they both started to hiss and snap their jaws and jerk with seizure-like motions that brought them closer to me, I didn't try to help them. I ran. The troop closed in around me quickly, and I had to bat two of them away with the back of the flashlight when they got too close. Just like the first one, these two got up again without skipping a beat. "Good luck," Liv called after us as we ran. "You know how much kids these days love fast food." I knew my car was parked in the lot near the entrance, so that was my goal as I bolted towards the gates. The flashlight in my hand kept the creatures away, but it also attracted attention to me, and pretty soon I had others in pursuit as well. Every time I looked back over my shoulder, there were more of them. I thought of something that might work and tried it. I tucked the flashlight under my arm with the front pointed back towards them, hopefully blinding a few of them. I heard a few shrieks and howls of pain as the bright light hit their faces, and when I looked back again, they weren't nearly as close. There was plenty of fresh meat around the campgrounds, and I wasn't worth the trouble to most of them. Still, a few stragglers were pursuing me from the tree line, hoping for an even fresher meal. I could hear their feet racing across the dry leaves, keeping pace with me. things could still get ugly if I wasn't careful. And just as I had that thought, I stepped into a pothole, which I hadn't seen because the flashlight was pointed backwards. My foot went down half a foot further than it was supposed to, and I landed awkwardly, turning my ankle. The pain almost brought me to my knees, but I knew if I stopped, I would be done for. So I pushed through the agony. Pointing the flashlight forwards again, I hobbled the remaining 50 feet to my car, mostly on one leg. Every time I put my left foot down, I felt a lightning bolt of pain all the way to the bone, radiating up my leg like a live wire. My sock and the shoe on that side were already getting tight from the swelling, and I wondered if I hadn't broken something. I fumbled the keys from my pocket and, after several tries, managed to unlock the doors with the remote, which caused the headlights to turn on as well. It was a good thing they did, too, because one of the little monsters was hiding just by my front bumper, in the shadows, waiting for me to arrive. But the headlights blasted him in the face, and he shrieked in pain, clutching the melting skin near his eye before running off into the darkness to hide. My ankle flared in pain again as I climbed inside and shut the car door behind me. With a shaking hand, I tried to turn on the headlights, but hit the wipers and windshield washer fluid instead. The spray obstructed my vision, making me even more terrified as now I couldn't see through it. The sounds of footsteps crunching gravel surrounded the car, and I locked the doors, still fumbling for the headlights with the other hand. I'd gotten the car recently, and things weren't in the same place as I was used to. Finally, my hand settled on the knob and I turned it forwards, then pulled it backwards for the high beams. Bright white light lit up the parking lot in front of me, and assaulted several of the creatures who ducked behind cars to get away from it. Others scratched and clawed at the glass, and I heard a few windows start to crack and break from the impacts. I remembered the flashlight again, thinking I might have to swing it at their heads if they broke through. But then I recalled its other function. I turned it on and began pointing it in every direction and trying to catch them in the eyes with the flashlight beam. It worked. They began to scatter as the bright light scared them off. A few leapt up on the roof. Others could be heard beneath the car, pulling at the tires and delicate parts down there. Shit! I screamed, realizing they could easily disable the car, leaving me stranded there. I thanked God for push-button ignitions and started the engine up a second later. Then I threw it into reverse, slammed on the brakes, and saw a few bodies go flying into the grass. My tires kicked up gravel as I sped out of the parking lot, hitting the turn for the road much faster than I should have. I fishtailed and overcorrected, almost ending up in a ditch. But after a few harrowing seconds, I straightened out the car and floored it down the gravel road away from the campgrounds. The wild turn had the benefit of knocking a couple unwanted passengers loose, I realized, seeing them getting up in my rearview mirror. When I passed the sign for the town limits, which read, "Now leaving Hollow's End. Thanks for visiting," I heard one final stowaway jump off the roof, landing like a cat on the side of the road. I looked back in the mirror and saw the childlike form standing by the side of the road, their eyes glowing in the night. I didn't let off the gas until the sun started cresting the horizon the next morning, and I was far, far away from there. When I got home, the first thing I did was try to call Dave's house. My plan was to call Tom's parents right after that. I don't know. I guess I wanted to warn them, because I had a feeling that Dave and Tom would try to hurt them, come after them somehow. But it was worse than that. Dave's parents had a customized answering machine message. It said they were going on a little road trip, since their son was in the hospital. He'd had an accident in a little off-the-map town called Hollow's End. They said they would be back in a week, but I had a feeling that would turn out not to be true. Tom's parents had the same sort of message on their machine. I know it's crazy. I know I should count my blessings and just stay home. Be happy I survived. But I feel like I owe it to Dave and Tom for some reason. I need to try to save their folks. To stop the same thing from happening to them. I know I just got back home, but something is pulling me back there. I keep telling myself it's to save them. But what if it's something else? Something luring me back into that chaos. I feel like an iron filing trying to resist a powerful magnet. And no matter what I do, it will still draw me back in. If you don't hear from me again, don't go looking for me. Stay away from that town. There are things in Hollow's End that eat people like us for breakfast.
Become a channel member today for early access, bonus videos, and special emojis only available to members. Check out the description below or click the join button for more info. If you'd like another way to help support the channel, please consider joining my Patreon page at patreon.com/JordanGrupeHorror. As a patron, you'll get access to bonus videos and content. You'll be credited at the end of every video going forward, and if you decide to stay for 3 months, I'll name a character after you which will be featured in a Hollow's End story. Links to join the Patreon are in the description. Thanks everyone for listening. Please like, subscribe, and comment to help the channel continue to grow. And see you again next time at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Hope you have a great night.